Hello, and welcome to Television Zone Off the Deep End, a Deep Listens podcast where we cover the depths of role-playing video games. I am the Toki of this operation, Braden, ArbitraryWater, redacted. Joining me, as always, the Toa of this operation, Chris, ZombiePie, redacted.
I dropped a jar of pickles today, and now my room smells weird.
Your room smells of vinegar, which is used as a clean. Also joining us is a cute little dragon mascot with the heart of a pervert. It's Adam, Borgmaster, redacted.
You see, I was going to try to be one of those ghosts. I was going to say I quit my job to become a ghost. But no, if I'm the pervert dragon, then that opens up so many possibilities.
Yeah. You spend your character arc consists of trying to watch one of us bathe.
Yeah, that's just normal.
Hot stuff. That's right. We're back again with another off the deep end banger, because you and I and you all played a delightful video game. But before we start with that, did you know that you can donate $3 to our Patreon in order to get yourself a nice little fan pick, go on a Discord and see what horrible things we post on it? We're even thinking about merch. You wanna buy a sick looking mug with the logo? We're talking about that. We're even still talking about that anime podcast.
Yeah, we're getting closer and closer every day to playing or watching. Oh, God, Braden, how many times are we going to make that mistake during that podcast, this anime podcast, is we use the word play instead of watch?
Many times.
Many times?
For
like, it's
our
not even worth
pilot
pointing out.
episode of Untitled Deep Listens Anime Podcast, we
got an idea
watching.
for a title of a podcast about anime, send us an email.
Yeah,
we're all ears.
Send us an email, get on the Discord, yell at me. We will be watching the 2006 Studio Dean adaptation of Fate Stay Night.
Better known as Dean Stay Night, because let's just say that Dean's Fate stuff takes some creative liberties, we would say, Braden.
It's not. I'll put it this way. It's, you know how Ufotable is an anime studio that is known for making very pretty looking stuff with a lot of post-processing and compositing with computers?
Is that how you say it? Ufotable? I thought it was a UFO table.
No, it's Ufotable. I'm sorry. Welcome to my UFO table. We got that Kimetsu no Yaiba.
I mean, that's the nicest thing you can say about Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works is at least it looks cool when it's a fighting scene.
Yeah. Anyway.
Shame about the rest of that story.
Shame about the part where it's still Fate Stay Night. But if you'd like to join us on this exciting journey, ZP and I and one Pete Busby are going to watch that and do a podcast on it. So feel free to join us in this adventure. Maybe we'll have like a place to submit questions or comments. We're figuring it out. But that's not why we're here. Why are we here, Christopher?
I honestly, this is a question best posed to you, but I think that you did a pretty good job of explaining things when we did our outro for a Breath of Fire podcast. So a young man named Braden decided to, instead of asking to do this, on their own volition, decided, what if I made as a donation incentive for the children, raising money for Feed the Children of all things, made the next entry of this podcast that I'm on called Off the Deep End, bound by a list with some other gems. Like there were other games that could have been picked that would have been equally interesting and podcast worthy, but this list was provided online and people bid on them like it was an auction again for charity. And some person from Austria decided to give you Arizona decided to give you $250.
Yeah.
And
no
they said
that.
I wonder why. They bid on this thing, Time and Eternity, because, and I quote, it looks weird and it's got panty shots.
Yep. It looked like the worst one, and I saw a panty shot. And so we get to take advantage of a delightful video game, Time and Eternity, also known as Tokitoa in Japan.
Which that title makes a lot more sense than Time and Eternity. I think the title...
Time and Eternity is like because it's a wedding.
Sure, and they're in a time loop, but Time and Eternity implies a level of headiness and depth and like seriousness that this does not have.
No, it's a super serious romance story between these two characters.
So Braden, out of curiosity, you put this on a list of things that you've been thinking about picking. Before we started playing this, what did you know about Time and Eternity before putting on this list and like actually playing it?
I knew it was a weirdo niche anime JRPG that was released in the United States late in the PS3's life cycle, and therefore was worthy of my attention.
To be specific, released in Japan 2012 and released outside of Japan in 2013. So yeah, late PS3.
I don't think I realized it was considered one of the worst JRPGs on the PS3, which admittedly is a fairly low bar for a console that is a flush with maybe the worst ravages of the HD era upon Japanese development. But after hearing that, I said, oh, so we made a really good pick. And this is brought to us by Imageepoch, who are a Japanese who were a Japanese developer, probably best known for making the Luminous Arc games, the first couple Seventh Dragon games, Fate Extra, Blackrock Shooter, and bizarrely enough, Yoshi's New Island.
Yeah.
They
got a contract
Stella
with
Glow on the 3DS.
They got an actual contract with Nintendo of all things. Like they were a pretty, let's say, active developer for the Nintendo DS, like late Nintendo DS even then.
They made a bunch of JRPGs for the DS and the PSP. And then they also made a couple for consoles that are seemingly less liked, let's say. And this is one of them. So, for those of you at home, Borgmaster, I want you to describe what this game looks like before we describe what this game is.
Oh boy.
So, someone at Imageepoch had the bright idea of transposing 2D animation onto 3D environments. So all of the characters, all of the enemies are these 2D animating sprites, so animation cells, basically, in an anime style, in a kind of low rent, PS3 era 3D environments, like low rent for the time. So it's this juxtaposition of these, I guess, higher definition 2D sprites with not enough animation frames in these kind of ratty, like generic 3D environments. Some people would say that it gives them motion sickness. I didn't have that problem. But it is interesting.
It's something that you immediately can tell, like, this doesn't work. Like, your eye immediately enters, and like the part of your brain that detects the uncanny valley, I feel like immediately triggers when you play this game. Like, it's immediate. Now, to be absolutely generous to this game, and I've had this kind of theory posited to both of you for a while, so I'll put it out on this podcast right here, right now. I think that the 2D characters and their weird limited frames of animation, I think there's something to that could work. And I think that there's something about pastel kind of cel-shaded 3D backgrounds that could work. Because, look, I've played a lot of those Tales of games. I played a lot of Atelier games. So I know that can work. It's when you try to merge them both together when things just don't look right.
Yeah, there's a certain Laserdisc quality to the 2D animation going on. And if they had carried that vibe through all the other aspects of the visual design, then there could have been something. Like if this was like, was it Time Gal? Was that Laserdisc game? Like if it had that kind of movement throughout with everything, then that'd be interesting. You know, that could be fun.
Yes. If you at home listening to this podcast are still confused by how this game looks, I highly recommend you look up gameplay footage on YouTube. Do it right now. Just so you know what we're talking about when we say there's a fundamental wrongness to like the general quality of the 2D anime art, which looks pretty good for, you know, what it is. The limited frames of animation and repetition, admittedly, also fairly faithful to anime. And put that in harsh juxtaposition to the basic ass junky looking 3D environments you are running around in. It's fascinating. And
a fun party trick would be to show someone footage of this game on your phone at a party and be like, "Hey, check this out," and then just horrify just whoever you're showing it to.
The weird thing is that you have these cutscenes that use these fairly well animated, almost like pseudo traditionally. Obviously, this game is using digital paint; it's not actual like traditional animation, but the characters move in ways where it evokes traditional animes of like the 90s, magical girl stuff in particular. And they're in these assy, fully rendered 3D environments where even the objects are three-dimensional. Whereas, you know, you play something like the Persona games, where when you have these cutscenes and these dialogue sequences, the game just cuts to static images that maybe have some minimal animations here and there. But that works better than what this game does in having these like flat, two-dimensional, traditionally animating characters in super blurry 3D pastel environments and backgrounds. It's just weird.
Yeah, so This is the most striking and most singular thing about Time and Eternity, because Time and Eternity as a game is an, I would say, interesting failure of an action RPG. It's attempting things. It's It's very repetitive, and it feels like they did not have the budget to make what they wanted to make because they spent it all on the 2D anime characters and then didn't have any left over for anything else.
I think that there's something to that because Imageepoch traditionally did tactical role-playing games. They hadn't really made a lot of, I guess you could say that maybe if you generously want to call that Arc Rise game an action RPG. But like their crease were these like 2D tactical strategy RPGs. So I wonder if like this was like an early attempt on their part to kind of like take what they knew, take what they were used to in making 2-dimensional stuff and try and make it cooperate with a 3-dimensional environment or scope.
Even the PS3, which I will once again, I'm going to say something spicy, something controversial to drive the clicks. I'm going to say the PS3 is not a very good console for JRPG. You know, I like that Tales of Exilia. I like
one of them.
Yeah, I like 13-2 and I like Lightning Returns. Although the better way to play those now is probably back compat on an Xbox. But I would say in general, the PS3, for as many JRPGs as it had, especially later in its lifespan when Japanese developers realized they could make HD games, I think it's a pretty weak ratio of good to cruft. I would say this is not the worst thing. I would not say this deserves to be the lowest rated JRPG on the PlayStation 3 computer entertainment system when Neptunia exists.
I mean, have you played Neptunia?
No, because I'm a good Christian boy.
I mean, so you can't know until you play Neptunia.
No comment.
No, we're not playing an Idea Factory game. You can't taunt me into this.
But I can try, and
No.
I'll keep trying.
No.
Hey,
but
we
anyway,
have that 2/3 rule, Braden. What you gonna do?
Yeah,
I just won't edit the podcast. Who's
Just
going to
dump
edit
the
the
raw
podcast
audio.
if I won't?
Oh, that's a good point. But going back to the combat in Time and Eternity, what you were saying earlier about Imageepoch not being used to action RPGs, that you can feel that in the combat design because the way that the encounters work, it's a random encounter game, but the encounters are a series of 1v1 fights with whatever mob you're fighting. And it's an ATB-based system where you're charging up like an action bar, and then you're, shooting your gun, stabbing with your knife, or triggering a special ability with your ATB charge. And then after you defeat the enemy you're facing, you just kind of like the camera just kind of turns 90 degrees to the next enemy, and in any encounter you can have between 1 and 8 1v1 fights. So there's not a lot of confidence in developing like a real-time combat system here. And that causes the gameplay to get very repetitive very quickly.
So, yeah, you're building up basically an ATB meter with your gun or knife attacks, depending on if you are close or far away. And then can spend those ATB chunks on special moves and spells. Your defensive options are you can block and parry, which feel very clonk, or you can dodge, which also feels very clonk. And so there is a timing aspect to it that is not entirely outside the realm of like a Mario RPG, a Mario and Luigi, a Paper Mario and whatnot. But it lacks the responsiveness to ever feel satisfying. So a lot of the time I was playing the game, I would mash the attack button. The enemies thankfully do have like fairly decent wind-ups and tells because there are also only like 20 or 30 enemy sprites, if that. And so you can block and parry with that. And there is, there is some skill to it, but a lot of it is just mashing it out, dodging randomly, popping your specials, popping your super duper time stop, and just going to town. How did you two feel about the combat?
Initially, when I started to come up against like the blocking and parrying system, I started to get some vibes of, let's say, Eternal Sonata. But this game is not punishing about the timing for this. So you can just do, as you said, Braden, you can just mash the buttons. You're not punished for technically just mashing. And so something that I can only assume was designed the way or added into the game to in the hopes of adding depth immediately becomes pointless and mindless. And the weird thing is that because there's so little in terms of the core mechanics of this game, like we'll talk about the leveling up system in this game because, oh, Jesus, what the... but with so little in this game, like because you're primarily only, well, because you're basically only controlling one character, you're really just shooting them. You're just attacking and then blocking, attacking and blocking, attacking, then blocking, and then like moving the camera around. So as a result, the real only strategy to the combat is, can you block the things that are coming your way? And if you're not going to be good at blocking, do you have enough HP to just eat it? And most of the times the answer is no.
Healing items like candy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say you can access the items at any time with no penalty whatsoever, outside of, I guess, item limits that you might have. And I never got the parrying to work for me. It sucks. Expletive deleted.
You gotta turn your TV to game mode.
Oh, I see. But the dodging works just as well. And when you block, you still take damage. When you dodge and you do it right, you take no damage. So you simply just don't get hit.
But if you parry, you counterattack.
Yeah, but the parrying sucks.
Yeah, but I still did it because I'm a gamer.
But yeah, something that's just basically there to like try and change things up so is that you're not just hammering away on the attack button, just doesn't really add all that much.
Yeah, so it's about reading enemy tells. Sometimes they will have elemental weaknesses. Main characters, one of them is good up close, one of them's better with at range. We'll get into that. But for the most part, the combat does not really change or mix itself up that much over the course of this game's runtime, which let's say is in the 20 to 30 range generously, depending on if you were a fool enough to do all the side quests. I don't know who would have done that.
Hey, the side quest is where all the meat is.
Yeah. But you spend a lot of time running around these very featureless environments, getting into random encounters, interacting with the stark handful of interactables that are on your minimap, while some pretty good Yuzo Koshiro music plays.
Wasted Yuzo Koshiro music, if we're being perfectly honest.
I'm to see.
Well, so he worked alongside another person, Takeshi Yanagawa, who is the Culdicept guy, like the Culdicept and Shenmue 2 music composer.
Yeah, sure.
And Braden, you know him because he did the music in Lost Kingdoms 2. He also apparently is like still doing music. He did that Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom game like a couple years back. So good for him. Getting work, get paid. So the music is like the best part of this game. When we rank this game, at least it has something that is like indisputably good. Like the music is better than some of the lowest ranked games than some of the lowest ranked games we have on our list right now. I want to say something in terms of like the way that this game looks and plays that just drove me absolutely crazy. The camera angle, the default camera angle. It's this medium shot that is a little too snapped into the character to where it feels too zoomed in for what you need to do in this game.
Yes.
It's like the Resident Evil 4 camera angle.
It's also, yes, the FOV in this game is atrocious.
You can hold L2 while you are moving, and it will zoom the camera out a little bit, but that looks weird in a different way. It's a fascinating thing. And
it almost feels as if what was that epic mobile game that was the RPG Infinity Blade? It almost feels like this game should play like Infinity Blade, and that after you're done beating an enemy, the game automatically moves your character to the next spot. It almost feels like it wants to do that, but instead it has free movement. And because of how zoomed in the camera is, moving around in the environments is actually kind of a chore because you don't have a real clear idea of what you need to do and where you need to go. But the good news is that all of these worlds are so devoid of anything, like anything, that you can usually figure it out.
It's all on your mini map.
It's just they're the smallest, most like railroaded worlds ever.
Yes, all of the little maps in this game are tiny. You will always know where you need to go, because you will go to the mini-map. It is, after a while, they just start palette swapping them. Because this game did not have an amazing... Did they just spend all the money on Yuzo Koshiro and the animation? Maybe. Maybe they did. But, is there anything else we want to say about the general movement, dungeoneering, combat?
The one nice thing to say is it has a small quality of life feature where there's random encounter meter that fills up as you move. So you get some warning when you're about to have a encounter.
I mean, I know that it's more of a story thing, but if there's really maybe one of the more bizarre non-look-based, graphical-based things, it has to be the leveling in this game and the character management of this game, because I can kind of like squint my eyes and understand where they were kind of going with like why this game looks the way that it looks. It's like, okay, we want to make a game for anime fans and we'll have the characters look like old school anime things, right? Like that makes sense to me. I have no idea how this is. I have no justification for why this is how you would have character management work. Like, have it tied to every level up, you switch to a different character.
Yeah, it's baffling. Maybe they wanted to keep the player on their toes, because you do have to play slightly different as either Toki or Towa.
The other main conceit of this game, aside from the anime, is just like highly rated, off-the-deep-end video game Grandia 2, the main lady has a blonde and a redhead sharing the same body. And one of them is spicy and kind of catty, and the other one is a traditional anime doormat woman. And they switch places every single time you level up. You can also use an item.
Now you might be wondering, so they properly figure it out, like, so this character is ranged, this character is up close and personal. So they time the level up so as that the level design is responsive and or matches which character you have in control. Yeah, that would require a lot of time and effort to figure out, right?
Yeah, it's entirely unbalanced. Like, no balancing whatsoever.
Like, if they... go ahead, sorry.
Those items, you do eventually get items that can switch between the characters. I didn't realize that I had those items until the last chapter of the game, almost, because it doesn't tell you unless you go looking for it. But that item is called pepper, so you do some, something like black pepper. So the girl will sneeze and then change, just like that one character from the One Thing.
Yeah.
Like, I guess to go to like revert or like retract something, like if the whole leveling system was you change characters at the end of every level and each level is tied to one of those two personalities, that could kind of make sense. But you grind in this game. The level ups are not actually tied to the progression of environments. It's got the traditional JRPG leveling system. So sometimes you might be in a situation where long-ranged attacks would be preferable to close-range combat, right? But you're going to be switching to that other character when you level up, no matter what. And if you're better at playing one than the other, which was my case, tough titties.
And also keep in mind that about half of the encounter types in the game will mix enemies that are better fought by Toki and enemies that are better fought by Towa. So no matter what, you are at a disadvantage. It's not hard, but it gets annoying.
Yes, but there are definitely like enemies who will get up on you. So it's a weird balancing act that does not feel like it works.
No, and it's like you said, it's not hard. It's just like you end up just losing time because these combat encounters, you're still going to get past them. It's going to take more time. And the mindlessness of the grinding just starts to really add up. And when you're not getting these bigger, more, let's say, flamboyish boss encounters, everything starts to become a grind and a blur.
I'm just going to say that if you do the side quest, you don't need to grind at all.
Yeah, that's what the video game part of this video game is. And if that was the case, I don't think we would have talked about it. We would have been like, yeah, it looks bananas. It looks crazy. But the other part of this game that I think is maybe more worth talking about than the part where you play it is the part because Tokitoa is not just an anime-looking video game. It's a video game that is also trying to capture the aesthetics and tone of a goofy fantasy anime.
Mm-hmm.
A goofy romantic comedy anime, let's say. And
how does it do, Braden?
Oh, it's sometimes made me chuckle mildly, but mostly so at the beginning of this story, Toki and her fiancé, whose name is Zach by default, are about to get married when ninjas attack their wedding. And then Zach gets stabbed. They go back in time to 6 months before the wedding. Toki's going to be like, I'm going to try to figure out how to stop this. Also, by the way, there are 2 girls inside me. And Zach is forever trapped in the body of her little mascot dragon character, Drake. And he is the POV character for this entire story. And, do you enjoy anime pervert characters?
Like, on the scale, like, what are we talking here, Braden?
On a scale of,
The monk. No, wait. Master Roshi would be a 5 out of 10?
Yeah, and then, Happosai from Ranma is the worst character, deeply irritating. So, not quite a pervy old man, a pervy young man character, let's say, who is constantly internally monologuing as a little dragon about peeping on the ladies. and he is your protagonist. He is your POV character, and it's meant to be a light and goofy anime. How light and goofy did we find?
I mean, I thought it was very serious. It's a very serious story where serious things happen. There are life and death consequences to the conflict. So I don't see where you're coming with all this light and goofy stuff.
Yeah. I mean, after you stop the assassins from attacking your wedding, she goes back, and then the wedding gets attacked by vampires.
Yeah,
well, vampires and ghosts show up and hang around, but it's her best friend that stabs her.
Yeah.
So it's basically about two characters that are arranged to be married.
It's like a time loop story.
Every single time they try to have their wedding, something bad happens, and that's the joke. That's the entire joke for the nigh 30 plus hours that you're playing this game. Someone posed this question in our Discord, whether or not we think that this game may have got the Samurai Pizza Cat's Ghost Stories treatment, where the fact that the dialogue is so
it's very
on the nose and flippant, if that was intentional or not, based off of the localization. And knowing that this developer was close to, knowing that this developer in particular was close to the Neptunia people, or Idea Factory, which oddly enough, like Idea Factory's CEO was the one that broke the news that, I think that the Imageepoch CEO just disappeared. Says a lot about how they were very close. Leads me to believe that if we played the native Japanese version of the game, it probably is the same thing.
I get the impression that the localization, this was a Nippon Ichi software, the bringers of such fine localizations as the original Ys 8 translation, which if you don't know about that, look it up. They had to redo it. But it is trying to do this. I think it is not that far off from the original Japanese. I think the goofy character names for the NPCs are probably similarly dumb in Japanese.
It's probably puns that they didn't have the option to translate literally because they would have been culturally coded.
It's like how Phoenix Wright, all of those games, they give the characters equivalently dumb pun names. But, the people who localized Phoenix Wright are generally pretty clever with that. So it's like that, but not good. And, there's some very fun, likable recurring characters in all those side quests that I skipped.
Oh, yeah, no, again, the side quests are where the action is. Because you got, like, your boy genius killer. You got this and that. You got the boy Lewis who wants your gun. You have the fat president. He was a skinny president a year ago, but then his secretary kept overfeeding him, so he became the fat president. But then he was eaten by monsters and became the ghost fat president. You have Ricardo and his fish cakes. Well, his cakes that have fish in them when they shouldn't. And his crew. You have the Assassins Monthly magazine people. You have that town full of ghosts, and they're all idiots. No, it's great. It's a great time.
Yeah, we love.
And I'm pretty much convinced that all of these jobs and names would have been some sort of Japanese equivalent rather than like completely serious. Like I bet that the Assassins magazine was completely played for laughs in the Japanese version.
And just the quality of the writing is gonzo. I would say.
I don't mean to throw you under the bus.
We're not even talking about Studio Gonzo, am I right?
Yeah. I don't mean to throw you under the bus, Borgmaster, but it is a testament to the fact that every single time you played this game on stream, you got loaded on rum, and even then, you were still rolling your eyes and like in agony watching this game talk to you There was that point with that like spiky-haired young kid who has like a weird, deeply upsetting infatuation with your female characters. And it's like, I want this dialogue to stop. This needs to stop. Please, God, no more.
Oh, you mean the boy genius killer who, even though he's in second grade, it has an incredible intellect according to his parents. He's in love with a woman, and he wants to express that love and has no idea how to. Oh yes, no, that is a core storyline in the game. And you can't hear my voice. This is pain. This is the pain talking to you right now.
Yeah, it's. I don't know, Braden. We've played games and we've seen things that could be best described as anime horseshit. This is above and beyond standard anime horseshit.
I would say it is both trying to be as dumb and tropey as possible, while also maybe not even succeeding at that.
I can't help but think of a Jeff Gerstmannism when he was playing what was it, Far Cry Neon Dragon?
Blood Dragon, yeah.
Blood Dragon, and he was going through the tutorial where it's like, all right, move your analog sticks up and down to make sure that you know up and down. Do you want to invert the controls? God, I hate tutorials. It's like when your joke is repeating the bullshit, you're committing the same sin as the thing that you're making fun of. Like, that's not clever. And there's a lot of that.
There is a certain amount of self-awareness. Where I think, to their credit, I think the English voice actors know what kind of game they're doing.
Yeah, there are times where they're doing the best they can with what I can only assume is a bad script. And there are multiple characters that suggest as much, because they are hamming it up. As much as like a John Turturro character piece as a side character in
the voice actors seem like they're having fun.
Yeah, the older characters are definitely that.
No, Alden, the character Alden. You see, he's the old spirit guy who talks like a crazy old prospector.
Yeah, he has an accent that is genuinely, I would say, always a blast to hear. But even if the game is aware of what it's doing, which I'm willing to accept was definitely the case in Time and Eternity, it really does just belabor its serious moments when it does start to get serious about, like, oh, this is an actual important relationship. And it's like, we have to have these two characters that are destined to get married, talk to each other and, communicate their love for one another. And it's like, I want to take an ice pick to my left eye and just be done with this. Like, this is how I feel about this scene. Please, God, let it stop.
So before getting to all of the everything with the final conceit of the story, I do want to say the part in, I think, chapter 3, when you're given the overarching mission of getting 4 MacGuffins from 4 dungeons, and the name in the naming of the MacGuffins are the 4 somethings. You have to go get the 4 somethings, and this character is telling you all about the somethings and how to get the somethings. And at that moment when I was playing it, I think for about 4 or 5 seconds, I completely disassociated. I experienced ego death for a few seconds. I ceased to be as a person when it seemed that. So that's how bad the writing is.
Were there any particular scenes or moment, Braden, that you feel did mental damage or psionic damage to you?
No, I'm more resilient. There are several, let's say, running jokes with some of those side characters that are painful, and
like there's the guy who's traveling the world trying to figure out the heart of women, or the hearts of women, and his insights into what makes women tick. That's pretty bad.
It's a lot of like the most by the numbers anime heteronormative relationship tropes that you can imagine. And we suggested it at the start, but let's say there's fan service in this game. Every single magical girl transformation
there's
strips your
T14
character.
Fan service in this game.
Yeah, the magical girl transformations always depict the characters in states of undress.
Semi-nude. Yep.
Hey, there's also that level up screen where one of the characters is completely nude, though not showing nipples or vajayjay.
Yep.
Which the first time I saw that, it's like, what is this?
Oh, you mean the affection screen that measures the affection of girls towards you, the player.
How could we forget about the affection system in this game?
It's like the Chaos Law route in SMT, except do you want the blonde or the redhead?
Yes, and sometimes after a combat encounter, the girls will increase their love or sincerity stat, and you want to have the blonde or the redhead, whichever one you want, guys. You need to make sure that she gets more love and sincerity than the other one. So that you can max out her affection for you, the player.
Just like real life. Am I right, my bros?
Yeah, there's like visual novel dating sim stuff.
There is a cast of supporting girls who are all anime tropes.
Yep. What were some of your favorites, Borgmaster? Because you played the side quests a lot more than either of us.
So for the side quests, there are only like 4 or 5 total NPC sprites, and they're all fairly tame looking. So there isn't much there. I mean, the girl who keeps losing her hamsters every chapter, that really ticked me off. Why can't this child keep better track of her hamsters? Why are her hamsters hanging out in the hateful forest? I don't get how those things even got there. There's ghosts and vampires everywhere. Probably the standout character from the side quest is Timothy, the ghost boy who was turned into a vampire by a jerk dragon. I was going to use a different word. And so he's trying to be a vampire, going blah, 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 blah at everyone. But really, he's just a kid. He's just a small bean. You have to beat him up to make him.
Point out, you saying blah 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 is not a bit. It's not a joke.
It's not. No,
that's actually what he says. That's what he does.
That's what every vampire enemy says. Vampires are an enemy type. When they have 3 lines when they're attacking. First line is this is the toast for your death. I forget the second one because I blocked it out. But the third one is just blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it's like the vampires in Heroes of Might and Magic 2. They just go blah. It's very funny. It's definitely not an irritating, repetitive soundbite at all.
So there's a lot of that. So yeah, you beat some sense into Timothy, and he goes back to his ghost mom in the ghost town full of ghosts. But yeah, so the side quests, other than being weird and dumb, like you have poor Mario who wants his allowance raised from his ghost wife, and he's a ghost. You have the fat president who gets eaten by a monster and becomes a ghost. That kid keeps asking for your gun. This and that and are the most useless people alive. Just stuff like that. It's not that bad, the side quests. It's the main storyline where a lot of the real horror show happens in this game. Like, aside from the perverted fan service, your pantsus and whatnot, your shower scene. Yeah, you know how it goes with anime.
Cleavage. Listen, we're all adults. We've seen what's on the Steam. Those games that we're never going to play for this podcast. But
we've seen what's happened to the visual novel label and tab in Steam.
Yeah, listen, you play Clannad, and then suddenly Steam is recommending you nothing but the worst RPG Maker pornography you've ever seen in your life.
Which is really what
Clannad.
And really, that's what we deserve as a society, really. But really, the worst thing in this game has to do with the ending. Is that something that we should talk about?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, fine. Let's go there.
No one who listens to this is going to play this game.
And you shouldn't play this game unless you're a sicko.
I'll say this right now. If we reach our 40 subscriber goal before the end of June 2024, which is probably when you will be hearing this podcast, I will get the platinum trophy in this game.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus.
I'll say that right now.
Okay.
Basic goals.
There you go. Out here. You want us to play Mass Effect Andromeda? Fine, I can deal with that.
What's
You
this
want me
anime
to-
game?
You want me to get the platinum trophy in this?
You just have to play it like 2 or 3 times.
Pay up.
No
No,
biggie.
you only have to play it twice. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. So after going through the time loop and having the wedding get crash a few times, eventually it becomes apparent that this sentient hourglass that Toki Toa carry around, and that's been narrating occasionally in the story, is actually the real villain behind everything. That sentient hourglass turns into a anime girl who's both he, him, and she, her at this just whichever's funnier at any given moment.
And not even androgynous. Maybe
No,
it's
just
an
goes back and
Astolfo
forth.
situation. I don't know.
Just the sentient sand
Yes.
of time, you could say, the sands of time, doesn't want Toki Toa and Zack to get married because Toki and Toa, who share the same body, made an oath to each other as children that resembles a marriage oath. So because Toki and Toa are spiritually married to each other, the universe won't allow them to get married to a third party, which is Zack. That's why everything's been happening. And the Sans named Mobius, or Lil Mobius, is a rap name.
Or Mobius Drake when it turns into a silly-looking giant dragon.
Yes. Mobius has been doing the time loop to prevent them from breaking magical contract, whatever, because marriage is, a very holy and sanctified thing. But Toki and Toa and Zack really want to get married. So through just the most convoluted time magic shenanigans,
Yep.
they figure out that Toki Toa's grandmother, who's also a time wizard, can go back in time, tell the two girls to not swear the oath to each other, so they'll get married to each other. And then one of them can marry Zack. But only one of them. Because if both of them, that's polygamy, which isn't allowed by the magic rules.
Yeah, that's listen, my pioneer ancestors had...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means that one of the two souls in the body, Toki or Toa, have to disappear, like be erased from existence, never existed, in order for the other one to marry Zack. So you could be thinking, okay, well, just don't get married, just live with each other. This is the 21st century. You can do that. But no, this is very traditional, the most heteronormative thing imaginable, where they want to get married, they have to get married because they're in love, so they have to get married. And therefore, one of the girls must be sacrificed. And this silly, unserious game gets very uncomfortable in the last 20 to 30 minutes in a way that is jarring.
Yeah, seemingly out of nowhere. I think we were all basically with you when you got to the end of the game, and we were just kind of like mouth agape, like, why is this game suddenly getting
really?
dark?
Yeah. So you have to pick one. It's not even a Xenoblade 2 situation. Oh, wait. Yeah, that game is also a game where the main character has to pick between a blonde and a redhead sharing the same body. Yeah,
but she's a sword, and you can have both, right? Or did I misremember that?
Well, listen, I'm not going to spoil the Xenoblade series.
There's an image. There's a JPEG that Braden and I are willing to share you.
There's a JPEG from Xenoblade 3 that made me laugh very hard when I saw it.
But
people
anyways,
seem to like those games.
The point still remains: is this world is monogamous, and whoever doesn't get to marry the boy, who is, I don't know if we've mentioned this, but this relationship is the least believable part of the story. Like they keep
Like, it's
hitting you
toxic.
over the head.
He's a pathetic weenie man.
Like,
They
he's
keep-
awful.
Hitting you over the head that he's a valued part of this girl's life, and he's a genuinely terrible human being.
Like this guy is pretty much unlovable. Like, I'll say that. I'll go there. So with these girls, like falling over themselves to sacrifice themselves so the other girl can be with them is, I mean, this is a family-friendly podcast, so I can't really state what I think of it, but it's messed up.
It is.
It's
effed.
uncool.
Yeah, it's bad and deeply problematic because.
Don't worry though, because
Don't worry.
if you play the game New Game Plus,
Yeah.
You can get the quote unquote true ending.
True end. What's the true end, everybody? Borgmaster, what's the true ending?
You marry both at the same time.
Porque no los dos, baby.
Yeah. So the solution is to marry both at the same time, so that you're basically
It's a
throwing
life hack.
time. Yeah, it's a life hack.
You can't be arrested for bigamy if you marry two women at the exact same time.
And that also goes to, like, all of the pervy stuff in the game is, like, the vast majority of it is between Zack and Tokitoa, who are engaged and on the verge of being married. But they don't seem to have gotten past, like, the hand-holding stage of their relationship.
Don't they even reference the fact that they haven't actually done normal things leading up to a marriage? Like they make reference to the fact that they have never gone on a date until the events of the video game. Like you have to complete side quests to actually have them hold hands for the first time.
Like it's bizarre how, I mean, it's not puritanical because it's Japan, but that version of it.
It is weirdly pure-hearted, which also, I believe, falls in with what I've heard about a game like Stella Glow, which is a very horny video game that also does not know what sex is. But yeah, so the story feels like an extended, goofy anime pervert joke.
That doesn't end because, like, say what you will about those Neptunia games, but they're short.
I mean, this game is also pretty short.
Borgmaster, how long did it take you to beat the game?
I mean, I did all the side quests and beat the game, and it's like 24 hours.
And I will say this. If you don't do those side quests, the game does get slightly gear checky in that the bosses just level you, because I actually did finish the game as well. And because I avoided the side quests, I went into certain bosses where it's like, oh, I just guess I can't beat this boss because
need a better gun.
I need a better gun. And I want to say this also about this game. Like, if there's something about this game that I think is kind of compelling, there are levels and there are level ups, but it's mostly an equipment-based RPG where the efficacy of your character's ability to get past combat is based off of the equipment you get. And there's something to that idea. The problem is that no matter what you equip each of the characters, you're still just doing the same commands. Like, it's not like there's cool combos to unlock or anything really impressive.
The game hints at a combo system with the magic that doesn't ever really come together. And I will say there's a weird hidden, like, defense math going on based on level difference. So because I was about, I guess, 5 levels over leveled for the final boss, and the boss's normal attacks did 0 damage. So it's not equipment is most of it, especially for the attack.
Maybe it's the sincerity stat.
Yeah,
Who knows?
there's some weirdness here and there, but it's a weird thing.
It is a weird game on both a mechanical and narrative level, and I don't entirely hate it. I think it's trying a little too hard for me to hate it. It's not. Well, do we have anything else we want to say before we get into ranking?
Do we want to go through the questions from the peanut gallery?
Yes. So I'm going to try a new thing because I'm the host of this podcast, so I can do what I want, and I am going to before we record, I'm going to ask on the Discord if anyone has any questions, because Jeff is the one with the email. If people want to write in to inquiries@deep.lol, Jeff has that email. So I have one from DeGrelkin. Now that you're officially scraping the bottom of the barrel, how long until you just start playing Idea Factory games? Never.
Yeah, Braden.
Never.
Yeah, when? I mean,
all right,
Fairy Fencer
so-
F is right there.
So, what's your price tag? What would how many
how
subs
much would
we
people
actually
have
need?
to pay? Listen, I hear Mary Skelter is actually a good dungeon crawler. I don't know if I
Nah,
trust the people who say that.
Nah, man. If we're gonna do an Idea Factory, it's gonna be Neptunia, man.
Yeah. So how much would you have to pay? You would have to pay me, or let's say this Patreon. This Patreon would have to make an acceptable compensatory wage as a side gig for me to consider playing a Neptunia game for this podcast. And I'm talking quadruple digits of per month.
Okay, but what about Metal Dungeon for the original Xbox?
I mean, if we do an original Xbox RPG roundup, that's a different.
So there's a loophole, is what you're saying.
Yeah, there's a loophole. If you want me to play Metal Dungeon and go and not just because original Xbox simulation is still in a state, then yeah, I'll say that. And if a fan were to request a Neptunia, I would be obligated to play it for at least.
Yeah, Phil Spencer. This is where to spend the money on if you have any.
Phil Spencer. If you need influencers to be excited about the Xbox series of consoles and such beloved games as Blue Dragon, give us a call.
Yeah.
Okay. We already answered the question about localization from Yatsu. Loam Life says, would the game's aesthetic work on a more powerful console, or is it just a misbegotten concept? I think it would work if they had the money.
Okay.
And I don't know if that would be worth it.
I said before that it would work better if they had 4 times the amount of animation.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would actually even push back and say you can do the limited animation where it's trying to be like Speed Racer style animation. If all of the game is 2D, you have to pick 2D or 3D.
I think
So it has to be like a Vanillaware game, is what you're
It
saying.
has to be a Vanillaware game.
Yeah, you have to do a Vanillaware, and Vanillaware is a video game company full of artists who have just recently figured out how to make the video game part of their video games fun. So, and then the last question from Joe is F, Marry, Thrill, Time, Eternity, and question mark. And as we all know, we Borgmaster and I both agree on this. Is we would F, because I'm not going to say the word because we're trying not to cuss as much. Toki, marry Toa, because she seems like she would.
She's fun.
Yeah, she seems more fun. She's got a little bit of that tsundere.
Yeah, she'll pull.
And then
she'll pull a knife on
murder
her.
Drake or Zach.
Yeah.
Just throw
Kill
him in
him.
a pit.
He needs to be throw him in a volcano like he's a Tekken character.
If the protagonist of this game was not just like the most pathetic little man, I think a large portion of this game's writing would be more tolerable.
Oh, did we get to Jatsu's second question of naming our favorite characters?
Oh, naming our favorite character. It's
and why is that character Lewis, the boy who wants your gun?
Yeah,
the gun boy.
It's the boy who wants your gun. There's an old man named Schrodinger who puts cats in a box because jokes. And I like the idea that there's just Red Bull in this universe.
Yeah, It's
The Mayor
I
of Ghost Town
think-
is good.
I think all of the supporting girls are kind of lame.
Yeah.
Her lame-o
Yeah.
friends. There's the token lolly, there's the rich Ojo-sama, and there's the clumsy glasses girl.
Weddy. And the thing is, so Weddy is the wedding planner, and she's
Yeah.
terrible at her job.
She's very bad at planning weddings. And I understand, as someone who has I know some people who have had weddings, and planning those things seems like a real hassle. I would recommend against it.
Yeah, it's a very
But-
involved thing.
So, but also maybe if you're going to get into that, maybe feel okay about spending better instead of getting your clumsy glasses girlfriend who is bad at her job.
But yeah, if there's even the slightest bit of nostalgia you have, if you're like me and Braden, and you're on a quest to find only the worst anime godforsaken
Jerpagas.
things, not even jerpagas, like anime in general.
Yeah.
Even if you have a high tolerance for anime nonsense, this ain't it. This ain't it.
I don't think this is the worst thing we've played.
But I sure don't
But-
think that you should go out of your way, considering.
Do not pay, let's say, $50.
Yeah,
for
this game had a limited
complete
release.
box copy of this game from eBay.
So,
Not
yeah.
to say who did that.
It had a limited release because, of course, this game had a limited release.
Yeah, it was a late era PS3 game. It's not.
And it's hard to come by,
It's not the most expensive,
but
But
it's
it-
not cheap. It ain't.
and it was delisted from the PlayStation Store, so you can't get it.
But yeah, I don't know. If you're gonna buy a weirdo RPG that's maybe above the norm, go track down a copy of Folklore. I don't know.
Yeah, Folklore. Play Folklore.
Play
That
some
game at
weirdo
least-
stuff.
That game
Or-
at least has the excuse of coming out in like 2007.
Or just go play Nino Kuni like everyone else.
Yeah, just play Nino Kuni.
I
Play
don't know.
Etrian Odyssey.
I want weird shit. Play Folklore.
Maybe we'll play Folklore one day.
Yeah, what if we played Folklore? That game's
I bought
got
a copy
look.
of Folklore from friend of the show Reki.
How much did you spend for that?
I've not that much.
Not that much, actually.
Not that much.
Time to time, as long as you're willing to purchase like scuffed game carts, which is kind of like what I usually do, is buy the scuffed game carts, and the disc is still functional. You can get those games for cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
like
let's get to
let's
ranking.
rank this because I feel like we're going in circles.
Top 3. Number 1 is Might and Magic 6: The Mandate of Heaven. Number 2 is Suikoden the First, Genso Suikoden. Number 3, Xenosaga Episode 1, Der Will Zermacht. Xenosaga Episode 2 was on that charity list. Maybe we'll play it one day. See if it's better or worse. I hear it's worse. And then at the bottom, at number 51, is Aiden Chronicles The First Mage for the Nintendo 64. Number 52 is Unlimited Saga, the unknowable machine at the end of the universe. Number 53, probably at the bottom forever, until Cassidy shows us something even worse, is Hoshiwo Mirohito, or Stargazers, for the Famicom. So where do you think we should start?
So is this above or below Eternal Sonata?
Oh, this is below.
Eternal Sonata is a work of art. The problem is Eternal Sonata is filled with anime nonsense, but it's bizarre and funny instead of just exhausting.
Okay, so is this above or below Ultima 9?
I would play Ultima 9 before this.
Ultima 9 is ambitious. Ultima 9 is a misguided mess. I would rather play Tokitoa, but that's because it's not very hard. But
So where's this in relation to Quest 64?
it is in a similar place.
Yeah, I think that looking at Quest 64, this is the right game to assess it with.
Yes.
So Quest 64 is functional, but it's just straightforward,
simple.
linear, and simple.
This game is also straightforward, linear, and simple. There are some bits to it I think are okay. For as much as I have spent this podcast ragging on this game, I think it has quote-unquote ideas, which is more than I can say for Quest 64. I would say it's trying stuff. So, I think it is a better game than Quest 64.
Yeah, it's doing a lot more. But it also has the benefit of existing after decades of game development. And it's working on better technology that at that point was fully discovered. Like, Quest 64 was hampered by the fact that it was on the N64, and it was a weird console that people were still trying to figure out how to get the most out of. Borgmaster, where are you? I think I might play Quest 64 before I play this game again, just because I can finish it, and I know I can finish it, and I am okay with finishing it because it's short.
I would rather finish this game than play more Quest 64.
So for me,
that game is Dramamine.
So for me, this is weird for me because I would rather get the true ending in Time and Eternity than spend even 5 more minutes in Fear and Hunger.
Yeah, but Fear and Hunger is several steps above.
Yeah, that's why this is weird for me, and why I'm just going to leave this to you too.
Okay. Would you rather play this game over Fear and Hunger?
No. I'll go with you, Braden. I'll say that I'll say that this game goes below Quest 64, and we're just done with it. I'd say this goes above Quest 64. What's above Quest 64?
Legacy of the Wizard, another Yuzo Koshiro soundtrack to a not very good game.
Not Legacy of the Wizard.
I think this game's better than Legacy of the Wizard. I don't have to solve any Sokoban puzzles.
Okay, so it's above Legacy of the Wizard.
Okay, number 35, Lord of the Rings: The Third Age. Another stellar pick from me. Would you rather play this or The Third Age again? I would rather play this.
You'd rather play this?
I would rather play this.
Yeah, you're probably right. Although Evil Mode is better than either.
I would also rather play this than Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden, but part of that has to do with how poorly that game's particular brand of internet humor has aged. But I will leave it to you two to determine if this goes below Shut Up and Jam Gaiden or below Fear and Hunger.
I'll say below Fear and Hunger.
Okay. Say below Fear and Hunger.
All right, so this is our new number 34. Time and Eternity, Tokitoa.
The lowest rated PS3 RPG.
Yep. I don't think it's that bad.
No.
Raves ArbitraryWater. There's probably worse out there. If you think there's a worse JRPG on the PlayStation 3 that isn't made by Idea Factory, let us know. We'll check it out, maybe.
Magus.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that's it.
What's next?
What's next? Oh, it's Chris ZombiePie Redacted's pick.
Why, yes, it's my pick for a video game of any sort. So, Braden, I've been doing a lot of thinking, and then I feel like Giant Bomb of all places made my case. We've been... I think that we've all been enjoying Blight Club, whether it's Superman 64 or... God, what's been your guys' favorite Blight Club so far?
It's Bubsy 3D.
Bubsy 3D was pretty good. Superman 64 is pretty good. Right now, this might be dated depending on when you're listening it. Grub is playing Daikatana. And Grub's complaints about that game being not good, I think, just show that he's soft. And Braden, I think it's time for us to assert ourselves as being the toughest consumers of Ion Storm's legendary software, because I think for my pick, I want to play Anachronox.
Okay. Tom Hall's Anachronox.
Yep. Anachronox, the game that has legendary award-winning machinima films based off of it.
Yeah. Okay. That's not the worst. That's not as bad as I was expecting.
No, I did have a worse pick, but I also feel like
we're guess what? The summer solstice is also happening in June, so maybe we'll have something for that. Who's to say?
This game is interesting too. I mean, you check out Anachronox's Wikipedia page. There's a lot about it. Like, it was supposed to be a trilogy. It communicates a lot of the excesses of Ion Storm and why they, as a developer, went under. And the end product, Anachronox, not bad. It's just weird.
I'm looking forward to it. Borgmaster, you're free to join us if you would like to engage in this adventure. You are not obligated to.
This game just looks like a low-rent Deus Ex.
Yeah, sure is.
It's from the people who made Deus Ex.
No, it's
running on the Unreal Engine.
No, it's Ion Storm Dallas. So this is the game they made after Daikatana. Ion Storm also was the Deus Ex team. But they probably asked the Deus Ex team, hey, could you give us our game engine? Our last game took forever to make, and we ran out of money.
Yeah, so it's a menu-based RPG made in the Unreal Engine that came out in, what, 2000?
2001.
2001.
Oh, it's turn-based.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the Ion Storm Deus Ex team making a Japanese role-playing game. Like,
It is from the era of Western studios who played Final Fantasy VII and said, what if we tried to make one of those?
But with the gritty, realistic, like, Deus Ex setting.
Sci-fi, dark sci-fi, goofy, but also goofy comedy because it's Tom Hall.
It has a lot of mini-games because, again, their frame of reference was, what if we... CRPG makers made a Final Fantasy VII.
I think we'll still have a better time than if you had picked Septerra Core.
I was thinking about Septerra Core, but also I saw you play Septerra Core, and I was like, I don't want to do that.
Septerra Core is, we have a Final Fantasy VII at home.
I thought about the Ted Woolsey game as well.
Shadow Madness, yeah, Silver. We have options if we ever want to go down that route. All right. I think that'll be it for us. I'm looking forward to playing Anachronox. Remember,
I wonder if that machinima film is still out there. Like, that has to be out there, right?
You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/deeplistens. You can also watch us on Twitch. I am ArbitraryWater on Twitch. He is ZombiePie. And that other guy is Fifth Generation Gaming. We stream pretty regularly if you would like to watch us play some of the video games we cover for this podcast. Is there anything else?
You can also find me at 5thgengaming.blog for my write-ups on the PlayStation, Saturn, 3DO, Jaguar, and all of the joys and horrors contained within.
I can confirm that Anachronox the movie, which is a splicing of all of the cutscenes plus additional stuff here and there, is available on the internet, and it is 2 hours and 30 minutes long.
Oh, hooray.
In-game cutscenes meant to convey a gripping science fiction story.
Yeah. I'm very excited.
We're going to review that as well, Braden.
You're going to review that.
We're going to review it together as 2-for-1 combo.
No.
So a watch party is what you're saying.
Yeah, but that'll be it for us. Remember to brush your teeth. Remember to wash your hands. And there's no such thing as cheating in a single-player game, I've been told. I think. Is that true? Bye.